Hello. Hi, this is Hudson, and I'm here at Ag Summit. Check, check, check. Is that good? Hello. Is it all? Yeah. Sounds good.
Hey, everybody!
Hi.
I tried to get them to change that music, but it didn't work. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching that intro.
Yes, that was amazing. I'm Hudson Jameson, and we have...
Blake. My name is Blake. Yeah, we both worked on this event. And hello, everybody out there online. But yeah, we got some stuff in store for you today. We definitely do. So I'm glad to be joining Hudson up on the stage. I'm usually running from room to room, but I get to see this suit up at close and personal. So
Yeah, this is like a $40 Amazon.com special, like one-time use, but you know, it's quality, like A quality. It's not quality. It's a suit.
Anyways, I wanted to kick it off right away. This is sort of our main stage programming. We've got a lot of other things that have been happening in some of our side stages. But first of all, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out to the Aggregation Summit. It's been really great, day 2. Can you guys give yourself a round of applause for coming out, enjoying all that we have to offer. I wanted to, if you can keep the round of applause going, I want to thank the staff that helped us put this event together. Chris and partners, that whole team, everybody that's making the food, everybody that's helping with check-in, the speakers that are here. Who else? I mean, everybody that worked on this, on our team, as far as the programming and outreach and all that kind of stuff, it's really been like a full circle sort of like team effort, and putting on like a conference and making it valuable for everybody is actually, you know, like what we're really focused on, but at the same time, it can be challenging to make it all make sense. So we're kind of, you know, we've been to many events. Hudson has done the Ethereum conferences, Devcons and all that stuff. Been working on events for a while, and so we would love at the end of all this to learn more feedback about what you liked, what we could improve, because generally we're building this all together. We want to create value, and yeah, so please feel free to share.
Absolutely. So what we focused on for this at the first Aggregation Summit is really about like having teams that are all focusing on solving L2 fragmentation, things around, you know, the latest in ZK tech, things around privacy, and having it be kind of as neutral as possible. I hate going to conferences where it's literally just going in and there's like the biggest banners ever in your face of just shilling something, or everything on stage is like, you go up there and, you know, I want it so that like most of my normie friends, if they were to go to one of these panels here in one of the side rooms that's about some niche subject, would fall asleep. But everyone here who enjoys that stuff would be elated to see what the deep technical conversation that's happening here. We have teams from across the ecosystem. We have Arbitrum, ZK Sync, Eclipse, Polygon, just all kinds of people. Aztec is what I was trying to think of. Aztec, Privato ID. So like we have everybody here that we could to, you know, come together about this and make it different.
Yeah, exactly. And then as far as like an event goes itself, I don't know, is anybody sick of a bunch of like keynotes and panels? Yeah? No, definitely. That guy. Yeah, we need to talk later. We need to talk. But we have a bunch of activities here, so we're really excited. Chipped was here. They were doing the NFC nails. We have massages if you haven't gotten one. There's sound baths if you haven't done that before. It's a nice little meditation for an hour on the second floor. We did a chess tournament yesterday. GovLayer, GovLayer happened earlier today. Poll Rush, which is a really cool way to pitch your project to some VCs and stuff like that. That was awesome. And then this morning we did the Run Club. We had yoga, just a bunch of really cool stuff. But I'll stop talking about that. We actually have queued up. There was supposed to be a guest here today, but unfortunately this person couldn't make it. So he went ahead and sent a message over and recorded it. So if we can queue that up, we're going to hear from Polygon Labs co-founder Sandeep Nailwal. So go ahead and yeah, get that going.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us at the first ever Aggregation Summit. I'm really sorry that I couldn't be there because of a personal emergency. I know that there is so much going on at Devcon, and you guys chose to be with us. Thank you so much. It means the world to us. I hear that the event is going great. I also hear that the food is really great. And I promise you guys that all future versions of Ag Summit will have such amazing food. We are really thankful to a lot of L1s, L2s, buildware projects, and UX projects who came together and worked together to solve these issues of fragmentation in liquidity and UX, and to make blockchains ready for mass adoption. I'm also thankful to a lot of founders who are building alongside AgLayer, many of whom presented at the Poll Rush event. And we wish and hope that we'll be able to help them in many different ways. Aggregation Summit, even though it's spearheaded by Polygon Labs, but it's an open and neutral event for any other project who's building towards solving these issues of fragmentation in UX and liquidity. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy amazing food, amazing sessions with amazing speakers. Let's keep building. Let's aggregate everything together. Thank you.
Woo!
Amazing. Yes.
Yes.
We definitely miss you, Sandeep, if you're out there watching. Essentially, yeah, we have a fun day here on the main stage. Oh, the X. Yes, sorry. What do you want to tell us a little bit about today?
Yeah, so as we're getting ready for the first panel to start, yeah, like Sandeep mentioned, I work at Polygon Labs. Before, I've done stuff all across the ecosystem with the Ethereum Foundation, Flashbots, Zcash, and then Sandeep's obviously with Polygon Labs. But it is like, literally, we were very, very, very clear across our org that this is not about Polygon. There's a lot of Polygon people here. We're setting it up, things like that. But we really tried to make the agenda deeply technical, non-shill, and very, very important about what's coming up for the future of all of this technology that we're working on. So probably the next Ag Summits are gonna have other partners working with us to make it even more neutral and just about the technology and coming together and even having a little fun. So I think that's the biggest takeaway for me is we wanted to make something deeply technical, a lot of fun that everybody can enjoy and relax and learn together.
Yes, and a part of our main stage programming today, this gentleman right here had some pretty fun ideas as far as ways to work with teams, answer questions, do firesides and stuff like that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the more unique components today?
Sure. So when we were, kind of all in a call being like, okay, what are we going to do at Ag Summit? We all kind of agreed there needs to be at least 5 casualties at this event or it's not a good event. Like it needs to get extreme, like X Games, like fire, but we couldn't get the flamethrowers in time. So instead, we're going to have a different kind of fire. We're going to have a spicy fireside. Spicy fireside. And that's going to come later, where we have some leaders from around the ecosystem do a fireside chat with Diana Kimes from Polygon Labs. And every 5 minutes or so, they have to eat a wing or a chip or cracker with increasingly hot sauce. You all might have seen this online as the Hot Ones show from Heatonist. So that's going to be really cool. And then the other thing is the Ag Game Show. And I mentioned, I think online a few days ago, I was teasing who the teams were going to be. So the Ag Game Show is a set of some mini games, just as like a palate cleanser between some of the really interesting technical panels, where we have different mini games involving, like tossing inflatable rings. We got some Nerf guns involved. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but the teams competing are Polygon Labs and Eclipse.
Hey.
Give a hand for Polygon and Eclipse competing for, what are they, actually, we'll reveal the prize later.
Yeah, I don't really know. Yeah, maybe we'll just find some swag, or I don't know, give him this chair or something like that.
No.
We're kind of making it up as we go.
No,
but
we need casualties, so we're using that for the riot later. So what we're gonna do is the Nerf gun we're using, the team can have that as the prize and lift it up and scream and walk off the stage. So that's how that's gonna end. That's some of the neat little things that we're doing there.
Yeah, the neat things. And then I know Sandeep keeps talking about the food. I don't know if anybody in this room has had any, but something that's really fun about this particular conference is we're working with local food businesses, and we decided to set them up in our food hall where the booths are and stuff. And thank you so much to our sponsors for putting that area together and making this event more possible and more special. But those are local food vendors. If you haven't had a chance, we wanted to sort of go local with a lot of the different components here, so you can get your back broken from a Thai massage, and then I personally had some of that cow soy with a lot of too much red chili paste on it, and it's delicious, but it's slightly painful. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, I think that is like one of my favorite components about Ag Summit so far is just good food and not like going from event to event, being really hungry, eating like tiny little like turkey and bacon sliders. So yes, thank you so much for putting that together and having our team work with local people, which I think is really rad. I think we tend to hop from city to city, event to event, and it's really nice to incorporate some local components to that. And so, yeah, that's a fun, unique piece.
Yeah, absolutely. So one other thing I wanted to talk about, excuse me, one other thing I want to talk about is, you know, where is this industry going when it comes to all these new things that are branching out from some of the original L1 blockchains like, you know, Ethereum and Bitcoin and Cosmos ecosystem? I really think that there is going to be a point where things are going to expand really far out like they have with L2s, L3s, whatever those are, things like that, and then just kind of come back in together so that, you know, everybody is working on scalability solutions, and over time they kind of disappear. So really what Aggregation Summit is also trying to kind of get across is we're all working on different things. There isn't going to necessarily be a single silver bullet, but there is going to be consolidation in a very unique way that, you know, will hopefully bring in mainstream adoption. My whole thesis on like all this blockchain shit is I don't think blockchain like will be successful at a worldwide level until I don't know I'm using it. If I pull up my phone and I'm doing something, I don't know I'm using it, that's when it is truly mainstream, because it's like, just like early internet, like you had to know how to configure your own email server back way back in the day. Now it's like super easy, and like, you know, the least technical person in the world just about can set up their own email account. So we're a bit away from there, but it's going a lot faster than a lot of people thought, including me. So let's just hope that, yeah, as we have more gatherings like this and meet up online and have like spaces online that are really diverse and safe and great to get together and talk and learn, that we can, you know, get closer to that.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I think some of the talks and the workshops that we've had so far on day one, and some of the things that we're starting off on day two, I believe that it's as I've seen some of the speakers come and some of the different topics that we're covering, you can really see sort of the big picture folks all the way down to some of the more technical levels where people are actually trying to solve things, and it's nice to have them in the same space. They get to eat over some extremely spicy cow soy and talk about things. So I think Hudson and one of our other teammates, Victor, did an incredible job of doing some outreach and then looking at this as a cascade of information and processing that and bringing it to us. So I feel very special that the programming here and the workshops have been really awesome. The content has been really great. So excited to, this is getting some panelists in here today too, doing some fun game show stuff, and eating hot sauce, I think, is a great way to sort of, I mean, we're not even at Devcon yet. That's tomorrow. So like,
yeah, it's going to be a long week. I hope you all do go to Devcon though. It's honestly my favorite conference of the year. This hasn't finished yet, so it can't, you know, be in the running. But Devcon honestly is really special, and a lot of the things we try to do here, we were emulating from Devcon. The being comfortable, having a lot of neutrality, things like that. So definitely check it out if you've never been to Devcon before. It's incredibly special.
Another thing to touch on, sorry to drag on about the event. There's a lot of stuff happening, and it's really hard to share everything. Tonight at 6:30, we've got some really awesome local DJs from Thailand, and then I'm going to butcher Mary's last name, but we're working with Refraction DAO, which is a really, really sick curator of vibes and artists, and their focus is a lot on music and just like they're tastemakers. So everybody that's here, we're going to open up this space a little bit bigger. We're going to kind of revamp it to be more of a party. And then we're going to have a lot of beverages since we're broadcasting live. We're going to have a lot of tasty beverages that everybody can consume a lot of. And
Do we actually have to censor beverage? I had no idea.
No, I just felt like, live stream, maybe not talk about that. But anyway, it's going to be a good time. The vibes are going to be immaculate. We're going to convert some of this space into like artist installations, all in an hour and a half. So yeah, really excited about that. And that starts at 6:30, goes till 10. We couldn't go too late. They wouldn't let us camp out till like 2 in the morning.
But wait, I thought blockchain was permissionless. Maybe we'll be there till 2:30 in the morning. Who's with me? No, we probably shouldn't.
Not everybody's on the train there. Yeah, so.
I said casualties. We also have arrest. We're going to have 6 arrests.
Yeah, I've heard a couple people, be careful when you're out there on those mopeds, because I personally haven't worn a helmet, but as people have been getting pulled over with no helmet on there. So that's, yeah, watch out. And is there anything else specifically to Thailand? Maybe some like code of conduct stuff,
Yeah, we have a code of conduct listed out here in a few different places. It's basically be cool to each other, don't do Wi-Fi ARP attacks, and if you feel like you need to talk to anyone on the staff about anything, we have a like email and I think a number listed there that you can contact. If you're viewing this online, thank you so much again for viewing this with us. Yeah, like this is going to be on YouTube forever, but like having people in the comments is like always really thrilling when I'm watching live streams. And then, sometimes there's trolls and that could be a nice little distraction if there's in-betweens. So yeah, I think we are getting ready for the panel.
Yes.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
I was about to say, all right, so I personally worked with the moderators on the panels, and if there were questions that weren't spicy enough or they don't need to get along all the time necessarily. They're not going to fight, but it's not going to end with everyone's like, we're in agreement, everything is great. Like we need to have some kind of friction there, and I think that is one thing that's going to be really special about the panels we have today. They were hand curated for your enjoyment. So I think without further ado, we're going to invite on stage the Future of L2 Aggregation panel.
Woo! Woo! Come on up, guys. Cue the silly music. Maybe not that one, but yeah, great. Come on up, guys. Have a seat.
All right. Hi. So my name is Maddie. I'm the head of founder community for Polygon. I actually joined last week, so this has been a good second week. And we are here because a new L2 is launching every single day. A new stack is launching about that often. And so we're finally achieving our goal of onboarding the next billion scalability issues. So we're going to fix that. And for this panel, we have 4 panelists. And I'm going to be kicking it over to you with a couple of questions. Let's jump into bios. I'm going to do something a little bit different for the bios, which is introduce yourself, but then I would love to hear what is the biggest bet that you are placing on aggregating, on solving the interoperability problems. So Cheyenne, let's start with you.
Hello, everyone. Okay, nice. Hello, everyone. My name is Cheyenne. I am a DevRel engineer at Movement Labs. Like Maddie, I haven't joined too long ago either. I think this is like my 4th week at Movement now, so also likewise, really excited to be here, really excited to jump into everything head first. Oh, that's a lot better. With regards to what my biggest bet is regarding aggregation, I don't know, it might be a little cliche, but I think the biggest thing is going to be like chain abstraction, being able to provide the end user with an experience that they'll be able to use an app, not necessarily a chain, that the chain will fade to the background and that what matters most is providing the best user experience to the end user. Yeah.
Hey folks, I'm Modit. I lead engineering and security at Polygon. And the biggest bet I'm making on aggregation is just aggregating across companies, protocols, and everything. The way we are building AgLayer is that it's going to work with, obviously, the Polygon stack, Arbitrum stack, OP stack, even Solana, and anything you can imagine. Like we don't want to just silo it to our things. We believe in a world where everything is connected, and we are going there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ed Felton. I'm co-founder and chief scientist at Offchain Labs. And my biggest bet in this space is that we're going to continue to see improvement in aggregation and interop protocols. I think the user experience and the core technology is going to keep getting better and better.
All right. So let's start broad. L2s were supposed to fix this. We were supposed to fix the scalability issues, but it feels like we just brought a sequencer to a knife fight. So how do we get started? Why are we doing this to ourselves, and how do we fix it?
I guess I'm going to be a little contrarian here and say that
Yes,
I think
please.
the L2 strategy is working great. L2s are doing today about 80 times the gas that Ethereum does. And so within a few years, getting 80x speed up from the L2 and L3 approach is actually, I think, really good. I think things are going very well, that we've gotten tremendous scalability. There are quite a few L2s and L3s that are individually doing a lot more traffic than Ethereum. And together, as I said, about 80x. L1 is now about 1.5% of all of the gas in the Ethereum stack. And so to first approximation, virtually everything that happens in the Ethereum stack happens at L2 and L3. So to me, that's a big success, big scale up, and almost all of the activity having moved up there.
Yeah, for sure. L2 has been a success. So L2 is the horizontal scaling strategy. Like we're just picking things up from the Web2 scaling strategies, basically. And we have got the basics already there, and it's working, it's scaling. Now we need to connect those horizontal pods more properly so data can move more freely from here to there. So like when you have to jump from one place to another, you don't have to go through the Ethereum side. Like if we connect all of that together, we have theoretically infinite scaling with L2s.
Yeah, not to sound like a broken record, I definitely echo the other participants' points. I think I remember like first using L2, especially Polygon, like a few years ago, and to think of how far the landscape, or not, I know Polygon's not technically an L2, but nevertheless, I do know that like the landscape has gotten a lot better since then. And I think as like time progresses, you know, as more L2s come out, I think correlated with that is going to be more like bridging solutions, more chain abstraction solutions, everything that will make the entire stack easier to use. So I think it's just a matter of time before it all gets better.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the patience here.
We have aggregated an additional panelist for y'all. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah. For one thing, I've learned that you can't leave an hour before if you're getting somewhere. You got to leave an hour and a half before. Keep your meetings 2 hours spaced between each other because Bangkok is a big city. Many lessons here. L2's on Bangkok when? My name is Terry. I'm head of strategy at Eclipse. Eclipse is building the first SVM L2. We just launched mainnet about 3 days ago. Good to meet y'all.
And something we made the other panelists do is, what is the biggest bet that you have placed with Eclipse in order to solve these interoperability concerns?
Yeah, like part of our goal is to not have to have app chains, not have to have L3s, and fragmentation within our own ecosystem. And our big bet is that we can solve, for the time being, given the current state of demand, interoperability within our ecosystem, simply by having high throughput.
And this is great because I can recap for what we were just talking about. So if I'm hearing it correctly, feel free to push back. It's that scalability is going great, but there are trade-offs inherent to the abstraction and to the technology that we're bringing in. So I want to get a little bit more granular there. For one of those trade-offs is security, that you have more attack vectors, more security models, and that's why we can't just wave a magic wand and make all this magically happen. So what are some specific attack vectors that we need to watch out for as we aggregate?
I can start. One of the biggest things when you're aggregating things and security-wise is that not all L2s are same. Like every L2 has a different maturity level. L2 Beats has done their stage 0, stage 1, stage 2 breakdowns, but the reality is at the end of the day, every L2 has their different like security level. And if you move one asset to another, you kind of need to trust both chains to have similar level. So if you blindly just aggregate all L2s together, then what you're doing is you're reducing security of all L2s to the least secure chain in that set. So that is one of the biggest problems that Aggler solves using pessimistic proofs, but it's definitely a big pain point right now.
I think another thing too to add on to that, like you said, not all L2s are the same. I think like most recently, like you said, Eclipse launched you the first. If I'm not mistaken, you guys are the first alt VM on Ethereum. Is that correct?
There's Fuel, V0,
Okay.
V1 Starknet,
Okay.
and Aztec Connect. There's quite a lot.
Okay.
Yep. Arbitrum Stylus as well supports both EVM and WASM Rust.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that, but yeah, similarly, like, you know, I'm with Movement, we're coming along soon too, and I think, yeah, one of the biggest advantages of Ethereum as like this, like central point in the ecosystem is that it provides this opportunity for very different L2s to come on board. So I think, yeah, it would be, I feel like almost impossible to have a one solution fits all for all the L2s. So I think that'll be interesting.
I think it's important that different L2 chains, even different chains that use the same technology stack, will have different security trade-offs, different issues. And so we can't just abstract away those differences. Otherwise, we do have the security of the weakest link, and we incent a race to the bottom among the L2 operators. So we don't want to go there. But in addition to that, we need to think about whether we're introducing additional security trust assumptions or security vulnerabilities in the way that we do interoperation. I think it's important to strive for interop that doesn't itself add an additional security risk on top of the risks that might exist because of which chains you're connecting.
Two things. So a little bit deviating from the question, but I think like one of the kind of ways we could interpret the question was if you increase scalability, what effect does that have on the security of the chain, you know, irregardless of whether it's pertinent to aggregation or not? And one thing, and I think Ed would be opinionated here, is that if you push the sequencer throughput infinitely, right, the ability for an L2 full node to catch up and keep up with replay is at times limited. And I believe this is the reason why Arbitrum kind of like limited your megagas per second.
I think every chain has to have limited gas per second for that reason.
Right, so like, I guess on the other side, what we've observed in Solana is that given sufficient, you know, activity on the chain and given the ability to bootstrap for quite a while, there will always be kind of these solo operators that are not part of some sort of institution that are globally distributed simply because the incentive to do so is there. And in the case of L2s, right, we have in the presence of L2 MEV and the desire to, you know, read state before all others, an incentive for people to run a full node. And as long as there is like one operator there, like that is an honest assumption. And given that, you know, an L2 full node doesn't need to require, is not required to have the same level of, say, like the networking stack or the gossip layer. Like it is actually possible to run a relatively smaller L2 full node while going harder on the sequencer scalability. And I think that's like kind of a different trade-off space that we've chosen compared to Arbitrum in terms of security. The other part is like, I'm very curious, Ed, like, does Arbitrum have plans to do or opt into some type of shared validity mechanism?
So every chain is free to do, every Arbitrum chain is free to do this or not do this as they see fit. You can settle to any parent chain you want as long as it has smart contract support. And many of them do. For example, most of the Arbitrum L3s settle via the Arbitrum 1 L2 chain. And so that's something that is already happening today.
My curiosity would be mainly in terms of the marquee products like One, Nova, and Stylus. Because as you mentioned, right, like once you tie your validity to other chains, there is a concern of where, you know, you end up having to reorg with the weakest link. And therefore, as someone, you know, who is operating, I believe you guys are the largest by TVL. and has the longest history in terms of being active in the L2 space. And I think you guys will be the first one to be type 2. I'm curious about how you guys are thinking about the trade-offs.
And Cheyenne, Madid, I want to get y'all in on this too, because I know you're dying to talk about shared validity. How do you feel about this?
Because movement is also part of Ag layer.
Is it, or?
My understanding is that the marquee movement rollup.
Everything's going to be part of Ag layer. I'm bringing Arbitrum as well. If Ed wants it or not, we are going to have everything on Ag layer eventually. But yeah, that's one of the spicier takes. Anyway, like what Terry was saying here, I'll add a couple of things. One on the sequencer side and just those trade-offs. L2s don't need single sequencer. Like you can go base sequencer or decentralized sequencer and run it in an almost L1 way, which eventually settles on top of an Ethereum or something.
So as far as shared validity goes, in my mind, there are sort of two separate things going on in a system like AgLayer. One of them is the aggregation of proving onto the L1, right? And that is really a cost optimization more than anything else, because each chain is separately proving its own validity, and then those proofs are getting aggregated together. So that saves you cost. Maybe it's a little bit faster. And so that's a good thing to do if that cost matters to you. The other piece of it is the interoperation, right? And that does raise the kind of security issues we talked about. And to me, all of this is really independent of sequencing. I think it's a mistake to design an L2 in a way where you have to make strong security assumptions about the sequencer. We worked hard in the Arbitrum design to make it so that the sequencer is only trusted to honestly report which transactions arrived at it and in which order. It's not trusted for validity at all. And if you design otherwise, I think you're making a mistake and you're decreasing the security of your chain.
But this is why I posed the question, right? Because Madid just said everyone's going to opt into the Ag layer versus will the marquee, the top rollup today, opt into the Ag layer and share validity? If the answer is no, then to me it seems like we'll have opt-in interop networks that are siloed again with each other.
So the decision about what Arbitrum 1 will do, for example, will be made by the Arbitrum DAO. And they're the ones who have the power, both officially and also actually in the code, to change this. And so if anyone comes with the product and they want Arbitrum 1 to adopt it, talk to the DAO. It's their decision. It's their vote.
Is there a proposal being drafted
for sure.
right now?
I mean, we're going to go after everyone. As I said, AgLayer's motive is to not leave any chain unconnected. We're going to get everything there. But just to answer your original question, AgLayer doesn't force a specific validity mechanism or settlement on top of you. It just basically adds at least minimal security to every chain that is connecting there through pessimistic proofs. So it limits the scope of bad things a chain can do to only the assets it holds. It cannot steal assets from other chains. So that's the bare minimum security we are adding. So other chains can be fine with what they have. I'll come to it. The second thing I want to add is the next version of AgLayer is gonna support what we are internally calling actuators or something, I'm forgetting the name, but that basically is a system of verifiers. You can basically connect any validity mechanism to it. It can be a ZK AVM mechanism, it can be a Validium, it can be an optimistic rollup. Doesn't matter, it's just the verifier which will verify the validity mechanism, whatever the chain is bringing. So it will maintain the original security validation and assumptions you are bringing. It will not remove any of those. It will only add pessimistic proofs on top of that.
So I do want to clarify one thing there, which is, right, you said that this prevents chains from stealing from each other, essentially. It's already the case that chains can't steal from each other, so probably more accurate to say that you preserve that rather than that you're adding it.
So, the chains can't steal from each other if they're not connected. But if you talk about interoperability and you just, in algorithms where the mint and burn type bridges, where it's not liquidity locked and it's just message passing, then chains can technically steal from each other. If the bridge gets drained on one side, the valuation drops on the other side.
And Ed, I want to dig into that. Is it that chains can't steal from each other in the same way that they can't natively interop with one another? Like, doesn't that change once the messaging gets better?
Well, so to me, it's a requirement of any interop layer that the chains are protected from each other, right? And it's great that Egg layer is doing that, but but as far as I'm concerned, it's not optional.
For sure.
Right? It's one of the things that I think is really good about the L2, L3 ecosystem is what we call the your chain, your rules principle, right? Which means that if you have a chain of your own, that you can make your own decisions about trust, about model, about cost, about infrastructure, and so on. And that means that you shouldn't be trusting other chains because they are independent, right? And whatever you're doing to interop, I think it's necessary that the chains are protected from each other. Otherwise, you just get this race to the bottom.
100%. That's right. Like Agglayer, as far as I know, is the only aggregation platform with that in mind, and its pessimistic proofs are core to it. Like you enable right now in all the interop solutions you have, either chains can steal from each other, so you have the minimum security mechanism, or there is no interop between chains. So what Agglayer brings in is interop with any chain without trusting the other chain.
All right, I have to take issue with this. People do move assets across chains quickly today, right? That's a thing that exists. So I'm happy with an argument that Agglayer does this better. But the idea that it doesn't exist today, I don't think is right.
It's not natively there. It's something you can build on top and move, yes, but there's no native interop which does it.
But I mean, this is why I was asking the question, right? Like, say that Arbitrum 1 ties itself to movement, and there's increasing velocity of assets like crossing the boundaries of each other, and then suddenly movement, I know they're not going to do this, but suddenly say you guys post a false state root, then suddenly like Arbitrum 1 has to reorg back to the original like pre-ZK proved state. If they opt into Eigenlayer, not Agglayer.
Oh, if Agglayer were to post a false statement, is that the question?
Yeah. Say for example, you guys have like tied validity, and you guys have extremely fast interop between each other, and then like the movement state root is false and doesn't pass, right? And then what happens to the epoch between the last ZK proved like state, like between the shared validity mechanism and then today, right? You just have to reorg all the way back.
Well, so there's this question about how to handle reorgs. One thing to note is that in an optimistic rollup, it is not the case that the chain reorgs if there's a false claim posted. That was the case with some older optimistic rollups, never with Arbitrum. I mean, we shouldn't get too deep in the weeds about how Agglayer and Arbitrum would work together technically, probably. But I don't think that's a problem in practice.
Well, it only makes sense in the context of like assuming, let's assume Arbitrum is a ZKL2, right? And then let's assume movement is a ZKL2. They both, are using the Agglayer with a shared validity mechanism with fast interop.
How big of an assumption is that?
Well, it's an interesting assumption because then like what happens to, like how do you like equalize the field between these like marquee rollups that want to retain sovereignty, that want to retain, their own like validity mechanism, and they don't want to tie their validity to another chain, right? And that's why like I use Arbitrum as an example because they are the marquee rollup today. And if they will be willing to opt into the Agglayer, that speaks a lot about the Agglayer to me.
Yeah, but like again, like reorgs and all don't really play there because Agglayer is fine. It's not gonna reorg. It's finality. If you have a proof posted there, it's done. It's same with the pessimistic proof. Once it's there, it's done. Like if the chain if the chain itself reorgs and tries to connect to it, they are gonna be at a loss. So they should only be posting proofs when they have finality internally, sort of.
And so we are coming up on time. We probably have time for one more round. And so to wrap up, so I'd like to talk about, and so Terry, we'll start with you. What do you think is the biggest risk that in L2 aggregation that nobody is talking about yet?
I think it's that you'll end up just having like siloed ecosystems again from people who are, both incentive and kind of like brand aligned. right? And so we today, like what we're trying to solve is like there's no interoperability between all these L2s. And then tomorrow, we have these issues of, am I going to share validity and therefore reorg with you? Am I going to, opt into a shared sequencer and therefore share some portion of my cross-domain L2 MEV surplus, if that even exists, with you? And I think the answer is, like, that's not going to happen, right? And so we're basically going to create bigger silos of people that can interoperate with each other, and probably intense systems so that you can kind of permissionlessly go across like the big clusters. But that doesn't look like what people want, which is universal synchronous composability. Yeah.
Cheyenne, what do you think?
I do have a question. So when you say like there's going to be silos, like you say that you think there's going to be silos with regards to different sets of L2s that want to interop with each other but not with others. Why would that be?
Yeah, like the movement cluster, the Arbitrum cluster with all Orbit, Stylus, Nova, the Optimism collective, and I think that's what's going to happen because like shared sequencing is not incentive compatible, and then shared validity is not. You have to be like a marriage of equals if you want to do that. And there's not that many.
I'll jump in there. That's the whole problem Aggregation is trying to solve. And once you understand how it actually works, it makes sense. Like there's no shared validity there. Every chain can bring their own validity mechanism. They just get pessimistic proofs on top. So you can plug Arbitrum into Aggregation today, and what it will do, it will not reduce Arbitrum's security, but it will make exits from Arbitrum to L1 much faster. Like right now, pessimistic proofs take like around 5 minutes. So you would have 5-minute withdrawals from Arbitrum to L1s. Aggregation in itself is not a bridge, it's a settlement layer. I don't expect people to go to Aggregation and click bridging buttons. Like it's gonna be intent-based bridging, in my opinion, all the way through. It's the underlying settlement layer which those intent solvers are gonna use to settle their liquidity from one place to another.
So what's the biggest risk for that?
The biggest risk is people don't see this bigger vision, and as you mentioned, like people try to be defensive of their silo. With Aggregation, I'm very open. Like there will not be a Polygon silo. The whole point is that we break open all of these silos and connect everyone. Aggregation is not a Polygon product. It's gonna be for everyone.
But one thing I'm curious about, and sorry, I know we are running up on time.
I would love to, so Cheyenne, I want to make sure you can throw in a risk before we wind down, and I'll kick it to you, Ed.
Sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, there are like two sides to this. You think there's going to be silos, you think there's not. But I guess from someone, I guess one risk I think that no one is talking about. I have not heard the siloed argument before, so I would go with that. Yeah.
I think there are two things that could go wrong if we don't do this right. One is that we don't, in fact, connect things together and we end up with these sort of technology-specific silos, which I think would be a real shame. The other thing that we might get wrong, if we're not careful, is to kind of impose a uniformity onto all of the different chains and all of the different systems, where we take what is currently like, it's as if you took sort of the culinary scene in Bangkok and replaced it all with like one giant bland cafeteria. We don't want to do that, right? We want to make sure that people still have choice, that different chains can make different decisions for their own good reasons, and they're still able to interop.
Hell yeah. All right, I vote we fix all that.
We fixed it all and we all agree.
All right. Thank you, y'all. Thank you to our panelists. I'm going to give it back to Hudson.
Yes, thank you all so much. Go ahead and exit stage that. Yeah. I've been in theater for years. Is that right or left? Stage right? Okay, yeah. Anyways, up next for the next panel, we have a panel on privacy chains. And this one's going to be very interesting because a lot of the time with L2s, people think of some of the ones with the biggest TVLs, but really like on-chain privacy, low-level privacy is really a big deal that is incredibly, incredibly underrated. I love privacy. I think that today's panel is going to be very interesting. We have great panelists. Man, I'm sounding like Trump. Okay, anyways, privacy chain interoperability. What does it look like? Come on up here, y'all.
All right. Hi, I'm Zucky. I'm the co-founder of a protocol called Sommelier Protocol. I've been working in the privacy space, I don't know, for about 10 years. I'm on the board of Zcash. I'm like the ECC bootstrap, that side of Zcash. I'm also like contributor to the Penumbra protocol, which is a privacy app chain in the IBC ecosystem. So yeah, and I'm going to be moderating this panel. Could we do a round of intros, both who you are and you know what project you're associated with?
Hi, I'm Oren from Starkware. First, I have to confess, I'm not a privacy expert at all. We're building Starknet, which is also not a privacy chain, but our core technology does involve zero-knowledge proof, so I guess that's the connection.
Hi, I'm Dominic. I'm working on Polygon Maiden, and yeah, it uses client-side proofs to scale and to preserve privacy.
Hey, I'm Sean. I work at AdSec. We're very similar to Maiden. We're doing client-side privacy, but with also public execution as well. And we're a layer 2.
All right. I'm just bringing up what I said before. Okay. So I guess what are the, maybe like, so there are these terms that we've already thrown out, client-side proving. Maybe like, could we just start with, if anyone of you like maybe people have exposure to Zcash, Monero, that kind of stuff. What are we getting that's new from these like new next generation privacy environments? Like what is new, what is exciting, what is different?
I think it pushes what is a roll-up basically to the next evolution step, meaning that you push state and execution to the user, or like, it can be the next evolution step, but basically users execute their own transaction and can keep their own state, and that brings you two things basically. And the first is that the chain itself is way less burdened, so you don't run into execution bloat because users can execute in parallel and they execute on their own, and you don't run into state bloat, so the state of the blockchain doesn't grow like indefinitely or as fast as in a normal chain. And so like these chains, they scale way better because the blockchain stays small. And the other part is you get privacy for free, meaning that if users create a zero-knowledge proof of their own state transition, that means that no one else knows how this state has changed. They just see the change in the commitment, and that leads to basically, like the theory is, it leads to high scalability or high throughput and to privacy.
Yeah, so to the best of my knowledge, Aztec, Penumbra, Maiden, and Alio are all some variant of this architecture for different use cases and different things. So where does interoperability then fit into this? Like, why do these things need to be interoperable?
So for Aztec, our first product that we kind of went out with was Aztec Connect, and itself, like, it was a privacy solution, so as a layer 2, but what you got from it was private DeFi on Ethereum itself. So it itself, it would like existed as a protocol that interrupted with Ethereum, and what that gave you was like private DeFi kind of very easily. So you would deposit into Aztec and you could interact with all of layer 1's DeFi, but privately. So as something we saw a lot of usage of was like we were one of the largest holders of staked ETH, which is like incredibly useful if you wanted to be able to like send money to somebody and then them not also see that you have this huge staked ETH position. It's just good for users in general. And the whole, the new Aztec chain that we're bringing, it will also be able to do everything like this. So you can interop with Ethereum itself or any chains that you can bridge to, and actually interact with their DeFi ecosystems completely privately, if you can control it from Aztec itself.
But like, don't you lose a large part of the privacy once you interact with something that's not private?
You can bundle a lot of people together, but you also can keep like the identities somewhat private, which is good. So the amounts that you interact with will be public, but not who's initiated it and which Aztec user it is.
You could also like transfer authorities within the private environment in a way that like you could have like a vault or some sort of DeFi construct that was inside, that was like being controlled from within the private environment, and then that authority could move from party A to party B without revealing anything, right?
But the risk is there, yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I think at this transition point, like you could have like also some proxy contracts or so, then like, yeah, someone executes a private node or a private transaction, and then like the same as in Zcash, like the proxy contract could consume this node and even publicly, but no one knows who, like from where this node is coming from. And then your proxy contract could be coded as they just copy whatever you want to trade with, but the risk is there, I guess, like that you can backtrace it.
I mean, I think in general, like privacy, it's not a binary thing, right? It's not a 0 or 1. Like you could have parts of it private and others. I think probably the main challenge in blockchain with privacy is that on one hand you want to have a decentralized network where you have a bunch of operators and anybody could be an operator, and the operators do need to run the transactions. On the other hand, you want to keep at least part of the transaction data invisible from the operators themselves, right? So Zcash, for instance, had a great design for that, for a very specific type of transaction, which is transfers. And by the way, even there, it's not fully, like, there is a certain anonymity set, and beyond that, you could deduce stuff from that as well. But if you want to try and do that in a more generic sense, it becomes a lot more complicated. I guess that's what you're doing, but yeah. I mean, I personally don't know of a way to do it for any arbitrary business logic.
And like, but as you said, like it's a continuum, and then you would need to look at every business logic, like what kind of privacy you want there, and how you could achieve it. But I'm also sure, like for example, trading on a public AMM or so is not super easy to do it completely private. And but you could, like for a private transaction, Zcash has shown how to do it. But then it's like, yeah. But it depends, I would say, on the use case, and then. Yeah, but in theory, you can execute smart contracts completely privately, and they can even interop with public smart contracts. And then I think future will tell how private this will stay.
I mean, a DEX in which no one knew what the prices of assets were would not be very useful to anyone,
Yeah,
right?
a good mantra for it is like privacy for the user, but transparency for the protocol. So you still get all the good benefits of like open finance, but the users themselves can have some privacy involved.
So that depends who the protocol is. Like for instance, again, StarkNet, we're building StarkNet. StarkNet is not a privacy chain. But what we have seen actually answers a lot of the needs of entities that do want some privacy, like you mentioned, is app chains, for instance, because you could be a company, you could be a business, you could be running your own app chain, and that app chain may be submitting proof to some other chain, so the other chain doesn't know what's going on, but the operator of the app chain does, but maybe it's you, so it's fine. But that's a lot less ambitious than I think what you're trying to do.
Yes. But it's also like we're also trying to do it in steps, I guess. And like, for example, I would even argue that PayPal is more private than Ethereum at the moment. Like a normal other PayPal user doesn't know like what I do, but probably everyone who works at PayPal.
So PayPal knows, but not the general public.
Exactly. And this would even that would be a huge step, I would say, like, or an improvement given today's blockchains. And then you can go further, like up to absolute privacy, how we call it, where not even the receiver of a payment knows who the sender is. Like this would be like, and all of these things.
But can you do that for complex use cases, not just transfers? If you, like Zaki said, you want to do an exchange, right? That's not that easy.
Yeah, it depends on the type of exchange, but in theory, like you could build a private central limit order book. But yeah, like, and some parts must be public because you need to know what you want to trade with. But who takes the trade, or this can be completely private, for example. But yeah, something must be public if the more complex use case involves some public information that is more than just a commitment. So
maybe like shifting this a little bit, is there a set of things that are happening in sort of general cryptographic, like sort of progress that seem like they unlock something important in like this sort of private computation model? Like, what are the challenges? What are the things that like the research is like sort of solving right now? Where is progress being made?
So a lot of progress in recent years has been made just on tooling in general. Like a year or two ago, if you told me that ZK Passport and ZK P2P would be possible, like today, I would have not been very confident. But like the tooling has got so good that like the actual creative people can build these solutions. For like people who don't know what ZK P2P is, it's like enables completely trustless on-ramps that don't need, you don't need a middleman.
Yeah, what is ZK P2P?
Yeah, so it's like a setup where some liquidity provider or whoever they want to be can just like open a Venmo address for you to send money to. And you can create a ZK proof that I did in fact send money to this address and then unlock funds on chain because of it. And it's like, that is a huge unlock for a lot of people who don't have access to centralized exchanges and want to onboard under this ecosystem or something like that. ZK Passport, like pretty clear what it is. It's like you can prove that you have a passport from a certain place or prove that like you fit certain criteria, but you don't have to say anything about it, which does a lot for like on-chain identity for preventing sibling or just like tying any identity to something on chain is extremely useful. Like those use cases are now being unlocked because the tooling makes it easy. Like Noirlang that we work on, Circom, like Leo, or insert your favorite RISC-V VM. Just make these things a lot easier to do. Yeah, so the tooling's come a long way. It's helped a lot. It's also made like our projects possible. Like,
yeah. And obviously, like just the development of Starks and Stark-based signatures, like all from Starkware. But yeah, like this is an incredible breakthrough for general purpose or like ZK VMs, I would say. Like there's just a lot of research, and I think it is still not there. But even today, you can do a client-side proof in 1 second or so. And this, I would say, like 3 years ago or so, like no one thought it would be possible on a MacBook Pro or so. And yeah, like these things. And I think, like, I still think, like, it is the best answer, or it is the next thing in blockchain development, because it makes so much more sense, like, not only cryptographically, but if a transaction is only executed once, client-side, and the network just verifies a proof, which is, like, exponentially easier to do, then it just makes so much more sense than how we design blockchains today, that someone transacts, and everyone verifies this transaction by re-executing it. And so if we really want to have like mass adoption, then it just makes more sense if we just execute it once and everyone else checks the proof. Whether it's private then or not, you can still like post the transaction data somewhere, but like, yeah, it just makes so much more sense in designing a blockchain. And this is possible through the breakthroughs in cryptography, I would say, and Starks and Snarks and all these things.
Do you feel like ZK is enough? Or do we need ZK, FHE, MPC, trusted execution environments, all of these things in order to actually achieve meaningful privacy for people?
Like that depends where the user is. Like if you want to add privacy to something that has, like to a transparent blockchain like Ethereum, then ZK wouldn't be enough. Like then you need something like FHE. Like if you have a public mempool and people need to access it, and then like ZK doesn't make sense. And like, but if you want to have privacy, like if you build a blockchain with having client-side proofs and privacy like in protocol from the beginning, then I would say ZK is enough. But yeah, for like we see that users come to chains that are not private, and if you want to add privacy afterwards to counter MEV or whatever, then ZK won't help there, I guess.
Yeah, as alluded to, like ZK proofs are a tool. Like they don't give you a private blockchain by default. Like it's your state model with a ZK proof that like gives you the private blockchain. So, and just like ZK proofs also don't really give you very expressive shared private state, which is where like you would need to use a tool like FHE, or if you're a bit more pragmatic, maybe a TE to help you get there. Or I mean, MPC can also do that. Just buzzwords.
Do you have private shared state on Aztec? Like
You can have limited size, so like you can have notes that like maybe up to X amount of people know, and like you create a shared key for all of them.
Okay, but then they would
can
all see the same state.
Yeah, they can see the same things. But then for more complicated stuff, like I have something that's private, you have something that's private, we both don't want to know about it, each other's privacy, but we want to do something, then you need to bring in another tool.
Okay, like in poker, just to explain it, in poker, for example, would be a thing, right? So we have